How did you get into film, and how did you get so good at it?
I didn't even finish high school, Jason.
I know. We both did our thing on Twitter of our first 5 jobs.
Yeah.
And I was like dishwasher, and you're like
I was a
so
dishwasher. I was a dishwasher.
Porter. I put porter instead of janitor because that sounded fancier. And that's what my grandfather used to call it. Rest in peace, Porter.
No, I it's like
You grew up in New York?
Grew up in southeastern Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
I always say the poor part.
Yeah.
The shitty part. Because Connecticut's a fancy state. And when you go
like,
right outside...
your dad was a banker?
When you go right outside New York City, you get in the Stanfords and the Greenwich, these beautiful, very expensive towns. And then on the other side of the state, it was sort of where I grew up was kind of a lower middle class military industrial town.
Yeah.
I remember when Reagan left office, like all my friends' parents lost their jobs.
Oh.
Because we used to build submarines right there.
Right.
Yeah, I could ride my bike to the second biggest submarine base in the country. It's right down the street from where I lived.
Wow. What did your parents do? I'm curious.
My dad was when I grew up, was a used restaurant supply salesman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and my mom,
like Ray Kroc.
Not quite.
Yeah.
Ray Kroc was great at selling milkshake machines. No, my dad would sell dishwashers and forks and knives. And,
my dad
cases
had
of glasses
small restaurants in Brooklyn.
Like
Yeah, restaurant business is brutal.
And my mom didn't really work.
Yeah,
my dad now owns a coffee shop.
Really?
Yeah, so it's kind of.
How's your relationship with your dad? Is he like blown away by what you've accomplished? It must be mind blowing for him. It's mind blowing for my dad, but he has a hard time saying it.
Yeah,
You talked to him about it?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, I think it was exciting for us both because, my dad, I remember vividly, I could probably word for word recite it, when I was 16 years old, calling my dad to tell him that my girlfriend was pregnant. And to give that some context, I left home when I was 15 and never went back and never took a penny from my parents, never...
You were a freshman in high school.
Sophomore,
early summer, and you...
Left home.
Wow.
And never turned back. And this is pre-cell phone. This is before, they couldn't contact me. They didn't know where it was.
You weren't of legal age to work.
I wasn't allowed to go to school because I didn't have parental consent.
Wow.
So if you can, and I can now empathize with him because I'm a parent, but if you put yourself in his shoes, you've got this kid who's always in trouble, who then left home.
Right.
And you don't know where he is or what he's up to or what he's doing. And I moved to Virginia. My brother's in college there.
Right.
And you don't hear from your kid. I wasn't calling my parents. I was angry. I ran away from home because I was so angry. And then you get a call from your kid and he says, "Hey Dad, I'm having a baby."
Wow.
And I felt like I was an adult at age 16, but now 16-year-olds are children. I have a 21-year-old son, and I think that he's just now really starting to become his own person and become a man and all those things.
His frontal lobes have not fully developed yet. I think it's 23 or 24 when your brain is fully developed so you can make decisions.
Yeah, but at age 16, you're a kid. So in any event, for my dad to see, and then I was probably most closest with my dad when I was in the struggle. When I moved back to Connecticut and I lived in a trailer park not far from him. And, I had to call my dad and ask him, how do I get a job in a restaurant? And he said, well, let me call around, because he sold all these restaurants. Yeah. And that's how I got my job as a dishwasher. So my dad knew intimately that his, at the time, 17-year-old kid is trying to support his family off of $8 an hour washing dishes at that kind of shitty restaurant that I helped him get a job as.
It's a 12-hour shift, typically 10, 12 hours.
Beg for the 12-hour shifts, but they're usually pretty cautious about making sure I never crossed 40 hours because they didn't want it to pay time and a half.
Yeah, you got paid $4 an hour, $5 an hour, probably.
I know I was getting $8 an hour.
Oh, right, because you're 10 years younger. You're 10 years younger. Yeah, so I got to adjust it a bit.
The wait staff got $4 an hour because they got tips.
Right, but you could pay them less than minimum wage
because they got
the tips.
Yeah. I never got tips. I'd get the $8 an hour.
Then your hands at the end of the day are just
it was like
you were swimming for 10 hours.
Yeah. I often talk about that because I think that when people say where did you get your where did I kind of find my own ambition or my own passion in my career and things like that, I always say that if you don't know what you want to do in life, spend as much time as you can doing something you absolutely fucking hate.
Oh yeah.
Because spending 8 hours a day, actually I had 2 jobs because they wouldn't give me overtime, so I got another job at another restaurant.
Right.
So for me, it was spending 8 to 16 hours a day scrubbing pots, and every time I picked up that steel wool
Oh,
and every
so
time, like
brutal.
just the smell, and would have to change my apron 3 times a shift. It was just constantly in my brain, like, fuck, this is not where I want to be. This is not where I
Anywhere
want to
but
be.
here.
Yeah, and it
Anywhere but
really,
here.
that galvanizes your
Yeah.
resolve to
100.
is there's like an academic term when you go from having little means to having a lot of means?
We change your station in life. You become affluent.
Nope. There's a term for it. It's
yeah, when you move.
I ain't got no high school, so I don't know what this. I can't remember what the word is, but it's like when you transport from one place to another.
Mobility.
That's the word I was looking for. Like that resolve for mobility.
Yeah.
In my life was really, really set in concrete while I was scrubbing pot.